Good morning to colleagues that are joining us bright and early. We would just like to give some 2 minutes to other colleagues who may be struggling with maybe internet connections or still finding the links in their email. So at 11:03 on the dot, we'll start more formally. But thank you so much for joining us bright and early. Yes, a very warm welcome to you from wherever you're joining us this morning. It's appropriate to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome once again to the NGO Development Series, where on a quarterly basis, Sterling One Foundation, together with Giving.ng and the Nigeria Network of NGOs, will bring you experts on topics that are very much important to the survival and sustainability of our sector as nonprofits. This morning, we will be exploring monitoring and evaluation and data analysis for NGOs. And as nonprofits, you will agree with me that we always want to improve lives. We want to help communities. We want to see transformative change. Sometimes we say social change, but how do we measure this? And how do we actually show that we are making the right impact as we have set out to be? Today, I have two very distinguished, eminently qualified experts that will take us through the journey of how to properly do M&E. I have Dr. Bridget Azubike, who is an economist, a statistician, and a research expert with a PhD in advanced quantitative methods. Then I have Mr. Akinwumi Akunwojo, who is a social impact strategist, the manager of monitoring, evaluation, and learning at Youth Business International, the United Kingdom. And at that organization, he leads on evidence, data, and learning. And this is just an abridged version of their very impressive profile. I've just given you that abridged version so that we can save some time. In terms of processes today, you are able to ask questions via the chat box, while the host would collate all of the questions, and we'll then read them out to our panelists this morning. Also, these sessions will be recorded, and the organizers will ensure that all participants, excuse me, the 116 I'm seeing at this time, or 117 I'm seeing at this time, and more would have access to the recordings as well. On that note, let me formally welcome you to what promises to be an exciting 90, 95 minutes or more. But let's listen to, I was going to say Dr. Olakpeju Ibekwe, but let's listen to Mrs. Olakpeju Ibekwe as she welcomes us for today's session. Mrs. Ibekwe, you have our attention, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oyebisi. And permit me to also recognize our excellent facilitators today, Dr. Bridget Azubike and Dr. Akiwumi Akwonjo. Thank you for joining us. And for our guests from different parts of the world, let's say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the second NGO Development Series in 2025. I am particularly interested in this session because I think it is critical at this time. Donors, funders are all interested in the impact in the year, and in view of all that is happening globally, there is no better time than now for us to ask ourselves these very critical questions and build capacity to be able to monitor, evaluate, and provide the right data. We are proud to do this in partnership with the Nigeria Network of NGOs and Giving.ng. At Sterling One Foundation, we desire to see an Africa where everyone thrives. And we have started this session alongside so many other initiatives to ensure that our capacity is built for us to do this. At the Sterling One Foundation, also, we prioritize partnerships for the acceleration of the Sustainable Development Goals. And we have a few initiatives that we have done in partnership with the Nigeria Network of NGOs. I'm sure most of you already know it. We have instituted Africa's first financial product that is free for not-for-profit organizations. It is called Sterling Cares. And Sterling Cares is a solution that provides free banking for not-for-profit organizations, for every NGO and civil society organization in Nigeria today. For you to be a part of that wonderful initiative, all you have to do is log on to sterling.ng/cares, and you'd never have to pay charges anymore. We started this against the backdrop of the fact that we believe that not-for-profit organizations should not be charged, and rather they need more funds to do more work, to create more positive impact in a unique ecosystem like Nigeria and Africa. So we believe that this solution is required within our ecosystem right now. And for you to be able to leverage from it, just go to sterling.ng/cares, www.sterling.ng/cares, and you will get all the information you need to be able to get the benefits it provides. Of course, we also know about Giving.ng, which is about a new version of Giving.ng is going to be launched this Q2. So Q2 to Q3, so please keep your fingers crossed. We will still be giving free opportunity for you to crowdfund. So you can crowdfund at no cost to you, of course, leveraging your community. Beyond that, we also provide some grants, right now at the maximum of ₦1 million for projects within the health, education, food security, and renewable energy spaces. So you can also benefit from that, and the requirements for you to be able to access the grants. Of course, due diligence is critical, alignment with the regulations, federal regulations, how to be registered not-for-profit organization and be actively working, and have at least 100 donors on your product, or your, call it a product, your project, or 50 donors if you're a member of Nigeria Network of NGOs. Now, those are some of our solutions. And of course, please permit me to invite you to the Africa Social Impact Summit, which we are privileged to co-convene with the United Nations in Nigeria. The Africa Social Impact Summit is going to be holding July 10 to 11 at the Eco Convention Center, happening later this year. If you're an investor, you may be interested in joining the exclusive Investor Summit in partnership with the Lagos State government, happening on July 9. For you to register to be a part of the Africa Social Impact Summit, please just go to the impactsummit.org. The Africa Social Impact Summit theme this year is Scaling Impact, and it's the largest gathering of development leaders across the public sector, private sector, and the third sector, and holding in Nigeria today. So I believe there's no one in the room that wants to miss that opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to network, to grow, to get partners, and this convening has unlocked over $100 million across different sectors for different initiatives. And I invite you to join us July 10, 11 at the Eco Convention Center alongside our over 40 partners, because we're definitely not doing this alone. We have over 40 partners that have committed to being a part of this unique and timely convening as we accelerate and scale action towards 2030. And the African Union Agenda 20. I'd like to say thank you for your time. Get your fingers crossed as us in the room. I end up by sincerely appreciating the Nigeria Network of NGOs, ably led by Dr. Oyebisi, for the fantastic multi-year partnership on this series. Thank you so much. We look forward to doing more. Do have a wonderful session this morning.
Yes, thank you so much, Mrs. Ibekwe, and it's always a pleasure partnering with your organization. When you were talking about HESIS,
I think, Dr. ABC, you can take it over from here.
Okay, over. Can you hear me? I was just saying that when you were talking about the conference, I nearly charged you for doing advert. I totally forgot that we are partners. That's how much I'm looking for money these days. But yes, let's now dive in, and we'll start with Dr. Bridget Azubike, whom I would be referring to for the purposes of this conversation. Bridget, don't forget that she's an economist, a statistician, and a research expert with PhD in advanced quantitative methods. She has also done some work with the University of Oxford and the Education Partnership Center. We would now listen to you for the next 30 minutes. And I'll ask you to take it away, as the 181 participants on this call are interested in what you have to tell us. Over to you, Bridget.
Thank you very much. Are you saying 30 minutes for the entire session, or just mine?
So that's 30 minutes for you, then 30 minutes for...
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's fine. I'm going to share my slides. Thank you very much for the opportunity. All right, thank you so much for the opportunity to facilitate this session. It's a pleasure to be here. Myself and Akeomi will be doing this session on monitoring and evaluation and data analysis for NGOs. I was going to say people should type in the chat, but I can't see my slides anymore. All right, so just okay, so the purpose of this session today is actually to equip NGOs with a clear understanding of monitoring and evaluation and data analysis, and how these can be applied to enhance learning, improve impact, and support decision making. So we know that many people on this call will already know what monitoring and evaluation is. And some of you might be doing it to some extent, some might be just starting, some might not really know what it is about. We are hoping that this session is useful for everyone on the call. And if you're already doing monitoring and evaluation and data analysis, this should be like a pat on the back that you're doing well. Just keep doing what you're doing, keep learning and improving. And if you have not started, we hope we're able to convince you that you really need to be doing monitoring and evaluation. And we hope that this session is very helpful to improve your processes as you go along measuring impacts of your organizations. So I was going to do this as an interactive session where I ask people what comes to mind when you hear the phrase monitoring and evaluation. What comes to mind? If you have one word that you can put in the chat that you can associate with monitoring and evaluation, I would like to know what comes to mind. Are we doing that already? I think I can. So what comes to mind when you hear monitoring and evaluation? I would like to see in the chat. Check and balance, gathering information. Thank you. I can see assessing the progress, data, measuring impact, measuring success and failures, outcome, calibration, assessment, overseeing. So all of these are very, 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 very on point. Gauging progress and results. Thank you. So I'll go back to my slides now. So monitoring. When we say monitoring, we are talking about the ongoing process of observing, collecting, and analyzing data to track program activities and outputs. Like many of you have already mentioned, data, observing, analyzing. Monitoring is just basically, as the word is, to monitor something, to keep an eye on, to stay in touch with. Right? So what you are doing is to continuously observe and collect data of what is going on, what activities, what outputs, what results are we seeing, what is happening. So it's an ongoing process. While evaluation, on the other hand, is then a periodic assessment. So we go back to all of the data we collected during the monitoring stage, and then we look at that, we analyze it, and we say, what is the effectiveness? How effective are we? What is the impact and the sustainability of the program? Is then taking all of that data and looking at it holistically, evaluating the end-to-end process. We started from here. Now we are here. How did we get here? What can we do better? So this is basically what monitoring and evaluation is. And one key theme that runs through it is data. Without data, you cannot monitor and evaluate because you need that data to tell you where you were and where you are now. So that is a very important point that we'll still be coming back to later in the conversation. So why M&E matters? What is the importance of M&E? And I hope that this can get you thinking about why you need to do M&E or why you need to continue since you're already doing it for those who are doing it. Like we said already, it measures the program effectiveness and impact because you can tell what is happening from the beginning of when you started to how much your impact has grown as an organization. You started with one child. Now you have 10 children. They were not going to school before. Now they have passed secondary school. So you have that measurement to tell you how far you have come in your program. So that is one of the importance of conducting monitoring and evaluation. You identify what works, what doesn't, and why. It's a learning process with monitoring and evaluation. It helps you very quickly tell that something is not working, because if you are not measuring it, you will not know if it's working or not. So you already can tell what is working, why it is working, and why it is not working. It supports evidence-based learning and improvement. So the key word there is evidence-based. Without that data, you are not able to actually say where you are getting the information of what is working or what is not working. So that gives you the evidence you need to say something is working, and then how can we scale what is working, or how can we stop doing what is not working? A fourth point is that it provides accountability to stakeholders and funders. I'm sure that funders are very key stakeholders in with non-governmental organizations, as for many people who are on this call. You want to be able to tell your funders that the money they have given you for your program is actually doing what they gave you the money for. And without collecting the data, or without the evidence to back up your claim, you can't do that. And of course, funders want to make sure that they are getting a return on the investment they have made in your programs. So being able to conduct proper monitoring and evaluation will help you be able to be accountable to your funders. Okay? So it also enhances transparency. People can see what is going in and what is coming out at the other end. And I'm sure that that is very clear, that without that evidence, nobody will believe what you're saying, and nobody will want to continue to support that program. So it's not just a strategic learning tool. It is a strategic learning tool. It's not just a compliance exercise. I know there are many funders that as a part of their requirements to give you funding, they need you to do M&E. And so maybe some organizations just do it as a result of, well, we are mandated to. No, it's not just for them. It's also for you to learn. It's a strategic tool. It helps you do so many things. And if your goal is to actually make impact in the lives of people, that M&E that you conduct helps you improve that impact. In personal finance, we say what you don't measure, you can't manage. And what you don't manage, you can't multiply. So if you are even looking for ways to multiply your impact as an organization, M&E is the tool that will help you do that. So, as we've said already, impact measurement is also another very important thing. We've looked at why M&E matters, and one of the key areas is because of impact. At the end of the day, why you set up your program or your project or your organization was to make an impact, and M&E is the critical thing that would help you measure and multiply that impact. So it's a process. Again, what we are seeing here is collecting and analyzing data to understand the impact of your work. So it comes from this monitoring, which is ongoing, to evaluation, which is periodic assessment and analysis, to this whole framework of impact measurement. That is where everything is driving to. When you start the whole process of monitoring and evaluation, you are leading up to measuring your impact as an organization and being able to communicate that impact. So through impact measurement, we can test your program as assumptions. Theory of change, which I'm sure many people on this call would have heard of, is going to be covered in depth in the later session with Akinwumi. But when you started your program, right, you made an assumption that if I do this for these beneficiaries, this is what they will achieve at the end of the day. You started from, if I give them this input, this is what will come out as an output or an outcome at the end of the day. But if you are not measuring that process, then you cannot say whether your assumptions were right, that when you put X, they will get Z. If you don't measure it, you cannot tell. So you are still living in assumption world. So once you start that your program, the process of you saying for a fact there's a theory of change that has happened is through the impact measurement. And then I think I've mentioned this before, timely adjustment. When things are not working, you know how to quickly adjust because you are doing this ongoing measurement. If that program is not really working, if the maybe the communities are not really accepting it because of the way you have presented it. What can we tweak to make sure that we are actually communicating in the language that they understand? So you are following up with what you're doing to ensure the fact that if there are any issues, you can quickly make adjustments and continue your process. And then you can also assess changes directly attributable to your interventions. And this is something I believe Akinwumi will mention as well, because so many people are out there. We want to make an impact. We want to give a school bag to a child to make sure they continue in school. Are you collecting the right data to ensure that it is the school bag that is helping the child go to school, or it is a meal that another NGO is providing in schools that is making the child go to school? So if you just say, oh, I gave school bags and that's why all the children in this community are going to school, well, without actually collecting the right data to measure your impact, you cannot say that. So this is another key important thing that we need to think about. And we've talked about this again, credible evidence to stakeholders and funders. So one thing that we've mentioned all through the slide is data. Data is the key, is the source, is everything, is the foundation. Without collecting effective data, we cannot do effective M&E. And so M&E without data is just an opinion. We need to see data as our friend. We need to see data as our support system. It is the evidence that you need to continue what you're doing. It is the lifeblood of monitoring and evaluation. You cannot say what you are doing has an impact without the data to back it up, right? If not, you just have an opinion. Oh, I think. When you say I think, is that it's in your head. When you say, oh, the data has shown that 500 people after receiving our intervention were able to do X, Y, and Z, it's no longer an opinion. You're heading towards actual statement of fact. So without data, what you are really doing is guesswork. And with data, you can turn all those your activities into insights, into information, into evidence, and into action. Data inspires you to go from one level to another to show that you are moving and you're actually making impact in your work. So there are different types of data. This part will also be talked more on in the next session. We have quantitative, which is numbers, statistics. So you are saying how many people, how many children, how many food packs, those, like, you are collecting numbers. On the other end, while qualitative is more about qualifying narratives, stories, the whys, why this is happening and why we're seeing a change in behaviors, all those things. You are explaining the why behind the numbers. So from what is this, or how many is this, to why we are seeing that number. So that's what qualitative data gives us, which will be talked more on in the next session. So we have different data sources for you to be able to do effective monitoring and evaluation. You need to understand what kind of data do I want to collect, which all depends on the type of program that you are implementing. We have surveys. So surveys are more around, they speak to quantitative data, where you can simply send out questionnaires to people, and then you ask questions about the different aspects of the programs that you want information on, and they fill out your surveys for you. It can be online, it can be in person, but it's easier to deploy surveys to many people because it's more structured and it's direct, and the questions are quite direct. It can also be close-ended and open-ended surveys, where people just tick a box, yes or no, or you select a list of items that you want them to answer to. or you have open-ended where you then give people more room to write and to say more about what you want to know from them. We also have interviews, which is one-to-ones, like your beneficiaries. You sit down with them and ask them what is going on. How are you experiencing this thing, this program? How has it changed your views, your behaviors, and all of that? And we also have focus groups. So focus groups is bringing a group of people together where you have conversations with them, you ask them questions, you gather the information that you need in relation to the program that you want information on, or you are monitoring and evaluating. We also have administration records. So, for example, going to an organization and taking their records to see how things have changed over time. And then observations, literally just observing people, right? Go to a classroom to observe a teacher's interaction with their students, or go to a community to observe the interactions with community leaders and things like this. So these are different sources, which are non-exhaustive, by the way, but these are different sources with which we can begin to think about how can we collect effective data that helps us to measure impact and improve on our programs. So the next stage is I'm going to show us a screen. Would like you to go to menti.com and use this code on your screen. We have some questions on there that we would like you to answer just to get a sense of where people are in their monitoring and evaluation journeys as an organization. You can scan the QR code, or you just go to menti.com and input the code. And yes, Akiumi would then take it from here. Thank you.
Okay, Bridget, I think we can't see your screen. Do you mind resharing?
Oh, okay. I can see it.
Okay, I can't see it from here. I hope others can see it as well. But if you share yours, that would be helpful.
Okay.
So that we're able to pick the link as well. Or if you can also help copy it in the chat box, that would be helpful.
Can you see my screen now?
And not from my hand. Can the tech team confirm that they can see it? If they can see that, that's fine. Okay, someone is saying they can see it. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, I think I've stopped sharing. I don't know, Akimi, do you want to then share? Maybe.
Okay, let me.
I can see it.
Oh, lots of people say they can see it.
Okay, so it's only the moderator that is left behind.
Do I share it back, or Akimi, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, let me. I can take it from here.
All right. So I can see that, so it's quite clear. I'll just type it also in the chat box.
All right. Okay, if everyone can come. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that for a bit. Hopefully it's taken already, so that I can share this. Okay, yeah. So the first question is, if your mail framework were a car, which one would it be? Would it be a Volkswagen Beetle 1960 model? Would it be a Toyota Corolla 2000 model? A Honda CR-V 2015 model? A Tesla Model 3 2023 model? Or an autonomous electric concept car? Means that you are using technology, and I mean everything is up to date. So let's see where that is. Okay. Okay. I'm seeing more I mean, that's good to see that there's nobody in the Volkswagen Beetle model era. That's good to hear. Okay. Awesome. All right. Okay. All right. I think this already gives some concept already on good. Okay. All right. I think, yeah, sorry. Good. All right. So the next question says that if you can see the next question, it says that who is responsible for mail in your organization? If you are able to just pick one, nobody, the programs team, a dedicated mail person, or you have a mail team, or you have a mail personnel or team that are using technology. So let's see who is responsible for mail in the organization currently. Okay. Expected. All right, I'll wait for a few more and then we'll go to the next one. I see. So we're seeing a lot around the programs team being responsible for mail. Interesting. Good. Okay, I think this is reflective already, and then we'll take one more. That was the biggest issue you have regarding mail in your organization currently. What's the biggest issue you have regarding mail in your organization currently? And then once we take that, we'll go on with the presentation. Bashir, your hand is raised. Okay, baseline, collecting baseline data. Okay, funding. Okay. Data. Okay, personnel. Trained. Trained. Okay, staff competence. Okay. Okay. Baseline data, data collection, funding, training, trained, staff competence, knowledge of mail. Okay. The quality of the data. I see that. I think I need to note that down. Yeah. Skill set, database system. It's an afterthought, absolutely. Yeah, upgrade of staff. Good. All right. Okay. I think this is very good, and this is reflective already. So I'm just going to stop sharing, and then we'll go back to the slide so that we can continue then. So where are you? Okay, I hope I'm sharing the right slide. Apologies. Let me this is what you get. Okay. Please confirm that you can see my screen, please.
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry, I want to get it to show. Anyways, let me just continue so I don't so that I manage time. All right. So like everyone, I mean, it's good to hear what people have said, and I mean, like one person said, that one of the big issues about M&E is that a lot of times is being there's an adage that there's something that we like to say that programs eat meal for dinner. And so it means that there's a lot of times, most often than not, when you have to pick between program delivery and mail, you see that there's a lot of emphasis on just delivering program, especially where resource is an issue, where human capacity is an issue, where time is an issue. A lot of focus. People say they can't see the screen.
I can see your screen, Akeomi. I don't know if it's different for the participants.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Gideon.
Sorry to maybe just reshare.
Yeah, let me stop. Let me stop that and reshare. Share. Okay. Can everyone please confirm they can see my screen now?
I can see your screen. And yeah, the chat, they say they can see as well.
Okay, good. All right, good. All right, so yeah. So like I said, so there is then the conversation around how do you then ensure that in all that you are doing, even with your program delivery, that there is also a lot of attention that is paid to monitoring and evaluation, and that even when resource is an issue, even when personnel is an issue, that you continue to do that. Now, I have what I've called a 6-step approach to developing a monitoring and evaluation system. And the first thing is that you will clarify your theory of change and your result chain. And it's simply saying that you must be clear on what the problem, what problem have you identified? What are your assumptions for this problem? What exactly, clarity on the intervention that you're trying to make. It says you're seeing the wrong slide. Bridget, can you please confirm?
You need to change to the next slide. We're still seeing the Menti one.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
So this is what you can see. Okay, all right. Yeah. So, so clarifying the theory of change and the result chain, where you are able to clearly say that this is the problem that we are facing, this is the problem that we have identified, that you also have the right assumptions, like Bridget said, that you are clear on the assumptions you've made for that problem. You are very clear on the intervention that you are putting out, and what exactly is that intervention supposed to do? What does success look like? You have to be clear on, if we apply this intervention with all of the assumptions that you have said that you're going to be able to do, what does success look like? What will success be able to picture at the end of the day? Now, what that helps you to do, is you are then clear in terms of, oh my goodness, there's a lot of people saying they can't see the screen. Bridget, can you see my screen on the?
I can see your screen. The 6-step approach to developing monitoring.
Yes. It's maybe network.
Maybe you should stop sharing and come back up, maybe for the benefit of those that probably joined in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a couple of people can still see the screen. So
yeah, I know I can see the screen.
Sharing. Yeah, and then I am back here.
Maybe just you can do the slide share so that it's bigger. I don't know if that helps.
Yes, it's okay. I'm having a.
Hi, I think you can also put it on slideshow, just so.
Yeah, so I have put it on slideshow, and for some reasons, so I use 3 screens. So my slideshow is showing on another screen. Just hold on, I will fix that right now. Let's take you out. good. And then let's do this. Apologies, we will we'll make up for the time. Is it better now?
Yes. So we are on theory of change slide.
Yes. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's better now, yeah?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, good. Sorry, technology. I'm using 3 screens, so the slideshow was straight on the screen. All right, so I move on quickly to then say that the second thing you then need to do is to be able to clarify and prioritize the intended use of your monitoring information. Now, the data that you are collecting, what do you want to be able to use that data to do? Do you want to be able to use that data to get more funding? Do you want to be able to use that data to be able to report back to your funders? Do you want to be able to use that data for your learning? Do you want to be able to use that data to enhance your program delivery? You must be clear on what you want to be able to use the data to do, and that will inform the kind of data you collect, the frequency of the data you collect, and then eventually when you collect the data, how do you present that data? The third thing is you have to be able to define clearly who your key stakeholders are, and then what do these key stakeholders need to know? We'll come to that point very shortly. The fourth step is that you have to be able to identify what are the key performance indicators. Now, one of the things that we need to know is that within different sectors, whether it's justice, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's health, whether it's malaria, whether it's gender-based violence, whether it's period of poverty, there are some global standards indicators where big funders are measuring. And one of the things that we help as an organization is to look at what are those global indicators that funders globally are using, that are global standards that you are able to collect. We would get to that point where we are also able to differentiate between just measuring any indicator, but what indicators are important and useful for you to be able to collect. There is the fifth part where we then talk about you organizing, monitoring, you are organizing people, you are looking at the timing to collect your data, you are looking at the methods to collect your data, you are looking at budgeting, and then you are also looking at being able to integrate learning. And for me, this learning is one of the interests that I have so much around monitoring evaluation, because I believe very strongly in being able to collect data, being able to collect information that allows you to be able to learn as an organization, learn in terms of delivery, learn in terms of new ways to be able to do things, learn in terms of new challenges that people that you're supporting are facing. And as you go to the field, I mean, I have experienced this a lot of times, that even when you design a program, when you design an intervention, even when you have all your assumptions all in place, most often than not, when you then get to the field, you will find out that sometimes things are different. Sometimes some of the assumptions that you have made might be different, and then you are now beginning to ask yourself, how do you learn from that? There's a story that we always like to say about engineers without borders, where they had gone to this village. They had gone. Gideon, there are people in the waiting room that want to come in, and they are sending messages. Yeah. So these people had gone to the village, to this village, and they had put up a borehole there for people to be able to fetch water. And they went back 3 months after to evaluate, and they found out that the borehole was blocked. They dug a new borehole, and then I opened it up for people. 3 months later, they went back again. They found out that the borehole was blocked again. They then dug a new borehole and went 3 months later again to evaluate, and they found out that for the third time again, people had blocked the borehole was blocked. That was when they then began to ask questions around, what is blocking the borehole? Who is blocking the borehole? What are the issues that these people are facing? And then they realized that the women who they had done the borehole to be able to support were the ones who were blocking the borehole. They realized that these women, they prefer to go far places to fetch water because in the process of walking to fetch water, they bond together as women. They discuss issues as women. Some of them are going through issues with their husbands, and just the time to be able to go and fetch water was the time that they had away from their husbands. So they needed time away from their husbands. And then they realized that even though the borehole was good for the community, they were learning that there were deeper issues that these women were facing. And so they began to redesign their intervention, that beyond just supplying the borehole, they began to look at issues around how do you then build social groups that women can feel supported, that women can come together and collaborate, and where women can feel as part of a community, and of course be able to also support them with those ones that have issues with their husbands. So we then go to the issue around theory of change. I want to believe that a lot of people would be familiar with theory of change, but it's simply just saying that what is the structure that outlines the intervention that we're trying to lead? What assumptions are we making? Why is your intervention? And you'll be amazed that sometimes we might think that we are clear on those assumptions or the problems we're trying to solve, and sometimes they may not be clear. Sometimes the assumptions might not be right. There was a time I was trying to take a bus from I think it was from Surulere from Ojelegba to Surulere or something. I can't even remember. And then there was just a lot of for like 1 hour 30 minutes I couldn't get a bus. And then somewhere in my mind, I just told myself that if only I could bring a solution that can do a bus directly from here to, until I had a conversation with somebody and the person said that, in fact, there are so many buses, but it just happened that day that there was a lot of traffic that held them down somewhere. If I had gone ahead to start thinking about a solution for something that I assumed was a problem, then I didn't investigate that enough. So theory of change allows us to be able to be clear on what our why is, and we are clear on an evidence-based assumption. We are also clear on who the target is. Is for young children, is for school children between the age of 3 to 15, is for women who are going through gender-based violence, who are in rural or urban communities, that there is clarity around the target population, that there's also clarity around how, which is saying that what exactly is the intervention, and then there's clarity in saying that what are the outputs, the outcome, and the impact. And so what theory of change helps us to do is to look at that journey. And in mapping that journey, it then allows us to be able to know at what points do we need to institute data collection in a way that helps us to be able to learn as we are going on. Sometimes your data collection, even around your target population, might help you to realize that you probably have an intervention that is looking at young girls. But as you are collecting data, you are beginning to see that maybe young girls are not the only ones who are going through the issue that you're trying to solve. Maybe there are other, maybe there are other associated factors. For example, gender-based violence with young girls is one of the things that people are trying to solve. But then you then realize that even if you are able to teach the girl on how to protect herself, you're able to teach the girl on issue of teenage pregnancy, there is still the boy that is going to get the girl pregnant that you need to teach, that you need to educate. And so sometimes people then realize that as you are collecting data, you are seeing that for example, if you see that for 65% of the girls that you're supporting, the people who impregnated them are boys who are also not going to school, then that data is clearly telling you that it's either you are able to modify your program in a way where you are also catering to those 65% of the boys that are going to affect your own impact. Or you are partnering with an organization that is focusing on supporting boys, so that in a way that your own impact is able to improve your own impact. And data is what will help you make that informed decision to be able to say that your target population is who you're supporting, but there are also other population that would affect the target population that you are supporting. I need to go a bit faster. Now, what this page shows is what I want to be able to pull our attention to. Now, this is a typical result chain. For those who are familiar with result chain, what might be missing in this diagram is that before the input, that there is what you call the problem. But this is a typical result chain. And one of the things that we need to be able to start to think about is what we call result-based evaluation, where we are evaluating for results rather than just resources and activities. Let me give you an example. If I say that we have invested 100 million in girl child education, that sounds really good. It sounds really good, and people are going to applaud you. And people are going to applaud you. But at the end of the day, investing 100 million in girl child education is simply just an input. It is simply just resource. It is not a result. And so even if I go out and say I've invested 100 million in girl child education, it is simply at the resource level. If I then come back to then say that we've been able to invest 20 hours in training non-government organizations, that sounds good, but to be honest, it is not a result. All I am saying is that I am reporting at an activity level, where I'm saying that even when we say things as good as it sounds, that we are working in 36 states in Nigeria, it sounds very good. It sounds very good, but it is simply an activity level reporting. So we need to be able to think, and this is where funders are also looking for. Funders have moved and are even moving more towards result-based monitoring and results-based evaluation, where they are asking questions about what is coming out of this. So if you invest 100 million in girl child education, the question that the way I like to put it is, and so what? So what is coming out because you have invested 100 million in girl child education? So what is coming out because you have invested 20 hours in training non-government organizations in Nigeria? Now, if I then come out to then say that, can everyone still see my screen? Because some people are still saying they can't see. Okay, thank you very much. If I then say, thank you so much. If I then say that we have trained 233 non-government organization practitioners to be able to build capacity in M&A, then that's an output level result, which is fine. But funders are beginning to look at outcome level results. Now, how many of these 233 people who have been trained, how many of them have actually built capacity to be able to carry out monitoring and evaluation? How many people have moved from having very little or no monitoring and evaluation framework to instituting monitoring and evaluation? What is changing in the mindset? What is changing in the character? What is changing in the behavioral pattern of the people who are on this call after this training? 3 months, 6 months later, how many people will be able to say that they have improved in their knowledge on how to build M&E framework, and they have also improved in their capacity to be able to do this M&E? Even to go to the point that how many of the people on this call can have been able to access extra funding because they built an M&E framework, because they came to this training. That is the level of results that funders are really interested in. So this is just to tell us that we need to be very conscious in moving away from just measuring activities to say that we went to this number of schools, and to start saying that what exactly changed because of the things that we did. One of the things I mentioned in the steps I said before is to say that you need to be able to define who your stakeholders are and ask yourself, what do these people want to know? What would these stakeholders be interested in? And so I have this stakeholder matrix that I really like. And it says that for every stakeholder, that you are able to put them in any of the 4 quadrants. So it's either they are for every stakeholder, is that the person has, or the group of people, they have high interest and they have high influence, or they have high interest but low influence, or they have high influence but low interest, or they have low influence and low interest. And you're asking yourself, in the people who are going to be in all of these 4 quadrants, what are they looking for? What kind of information from my program would these people be interested in? Who are these people? Now, what the information that these people are looking for is going to inform the kind of data that I'm collecting. Now, for example, let's type on the chat, which kind of stakeholders do you think would be in high interest and high influence? And then what kind of information do you think they are looking for? Let's just do that example and then I'll move on. Let's type in the chat box, what kind of what kind of stakeholders will be high interest and high influence, and what kind of information will these people be looking for? I'll be in the chat waiting for your feedback. Good. The outcome of their fundings, good. Government partners, good. Funders, exactly. Policymakers, beautiful. Yeah. How you spend their money, absolutely. Now, beautiful. Fortune 500, awesome. That, yeah, good, beautiful. So it means that these people who are high interest and high influence, that means that what they'll be looking for is outcome level results very clearly. They'll be looking for what has changed in behavior. What has changed? What is the number? How many people did you reach? How many people did you support? How many people were able to evidence change based on the support that you were able to reach? Now, this type of people, you then ask yourself, in what way would they want to be able to see that data that you are given to them? These kind of people are looking for reports. Yes, you might have an executive summary to show them, but they are looking for details. They are looking for stories. They are looking for case studies. They are looking for they are interested in what is the why. So beyond saying that 85% of children were able to increase their learning outcome, they want to be able to see what are those factors that led to those children being able to change their learning outcomes. They are interested in that. So if you have reports, detailed reports, this set of people will be willing to get that. Now, I'll just give one more example, then I'll move on from here. When you then have high influence but low interest kind of people, let's go to the chat box. Which kind of people are going to be high influence but low interest? And then what will be the best way to present data to this set of people? Let's go to the chat and then speak. Let's go to the Yeah, I'm waiting for our feedback. Social media influencers, community leaders, yeah. Politicians, absolutely beautiful. Government, sometimes even policy makers, and some new funders. Some new funders can also be high influence but low interest, because I mean they've not come to say that they want to be able to do. Now, this set of people, it means that what will be interesting to them will be like we said, hard facts, hard results. And with this set of people, you can't send them reports. You can't send them long reports. What is going to be useful for them? Snapshots, infographics, charts, graphs that show actual progressions, quotes, case studies, short and sharp case studies that you have embellished with very good storytelling. So let me move on. Just to be able to say that, you need to be able to clarify what is interesting to the different set of people that are in your stakeholder matrix. And I've put an example here to say that your donors are looking for impact, they're looking for accountability, they're looking for return on investment. So when you are measuring, you want to be able to collect data that clearly says outcome, data that clearly talks about financial efficiency, that clearly shows how their funding is changing significantly, and the financial backing to that, and you are able to share that with them. For the beneficiaries, and sometimes a lot of us don't even realize that the people that we're supporting, they are also stakeholders. They also want to be able to know, and in those people, what they are looking for is satisfaction. What they are looking for is relevance. So you want to be able to tell these people how many of reach. You want to be able to tell them that there are 1,000 of you like yourself that I'm supporting, and you want to be able to tell them the quality of the service that you were given to them. And of course, you want to be able to also tell them the kind of changes that is happening. If you have boards, if you have a governance structure, these people are interested beyond just the outcome. They're interested in strategy, they are interested in risk, they are interested in sustainability. So you want to be able to collect data that helps to show the overall performance of your program, data that helps to show sustainability, data that helps to show effectiveness and efficiency, that you are making good use of the resources that your donors are giving you, but also of what your that your board might also be giving to you. And of course, the general public are really looking for, I mean, just the basic numbers out there. And of course, for your staff member, for people within the program, they are looking for activity progress. They are looking for how many lessons have we done. They are looking for how many people have we read. But they're also looking for what can we learn from all that we have, from all that we are doing. Gideon, if you can send me a private message to see how many more minutes I have so I can run along. Thank you. In defining indicators, it's important that we are able to look at the elements, and your indicator has to be valid, it has to be reliable, it has to be precise, it has to be timely, it has to be comparable. What it's simply saying is that if you have an indicator, your indicator must be able to say that, must be able to measure what is set out to measure. So indicators are saying that percentage of women who are reporting reduction in gender-based violence. Now, what are you going to use to collect that kind of data? Bridget did talk about surveys. She talked about why did I forget all of them? Surveys. She talked about focus group discussions, observations. There is, you can also look at longitudinal studies. Longitudinal studies is something I find very interesting, where you are able to look at the same set of people over 2-3 years, and then you are trying to see what is changing about these people. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Interviews. And then you are having a good mix of output level indicators. So with output level indicators, you are looking at things like the number of workshops that you have held. You are looking at how many people came to those workshops. You are looking at how many sessions you invested. But there are also outcome level indicators that you are looking at. How are people applying the new skills? How are people changing in the behavior? Let me use period poverty as an example. If you look at, if you are assessing, okay, thank you. If you're assessing things like period poverty, you can say that you gave out 1,000 sanitary pads to young girls in a village, but an outcome level indicator will be saying that when you don't give them the period pads, how many girls have changed their habit to their period hygiene? How many girls have been able to understand the need to move beyond traditional ways and have now adopted modern ways to manage their period hygienes? How many of them will go on? So what is changing in that? And then it would also be good to have things, even when they are not, even when the funders are not asking for it. 3 types of indicators that are very good to always collect, because they tell very good stories, is disability. So persons living with disability, how many persons with disability are you supporting? What's the percentage? What's the percentage of women or girls that you are supporting? What's the percentage of underserved people that you're supporting? I mean, looking at that social economic status, irrespective of whatever indicators that you're measuring, if always add these 3 social inclusion indicators to whatever you're measuring, they always come very handy. I have a few more minutes and I will go on quickly. So in connecting to M&E to donor funding, you want to be able to emphasize on outcome level results. 2, align your M&E indicators to what funders are looking for. If you go to United Nations website, if you go to Save the Children, if you go to World Bank, many of them have indicators that they have put out there in what they are measuring. So if you are working within those spaces and you want to be able to assess those kind of funds, align your indicators to what they are measuring. Pay attention to evidence. I mean, in the world of, anybody can just put numbers and just say that we are doing this, but pay attention to evidence, because in my own work, I'm beginning to see that funders are asking for evidence. Funders are asking to see background data that is supporting the numbers that you are putting out. So it would be good for you to be able to have concrete evidence. Beyond reporting, show adaptive learning. Show how you are learning through the data that you are collecting. Be able to put out that as an organization, with the data that we're collecting, this is what we are learning. Funders are definitely going to see you as a learning organization that way. Be able to communicate change with trends, patterns, and stories, and of course, use data to show sustainability. This is a pictorial difference of quantitative and qualitative data analysis. With quantitative data, you are looking at numbers, you are using it to measure, to compare, and you are really looking at things around what has happened, how much. You are dealing with numbers. So you use Excel, SPSS, and then an example is percentage of children that have improved knowledge. But with qualitative data, you are using stories, you are doing a lot of storytelling, you are doing a lot of interviews, but you are, this is where you collect the why, the how. How are things changing? What kind of experience are people having? And this is where you need to be able to put out your data as much as possible. Tell very good impact stories. Tell very good case studies. Put out your case studies there. Use social media to put out the kind of results that you have. If you have some extra funding, put together an impact report, either for a program or for your organization, and share it out there. Be careful around attribution. Attribution is saying that this result is achieved because of what we have done as an organization. Many funders are paying attention to what people are saying around attribution. Be able to proudly say that it might not be all of our work, but we are contributing to this, and then evidence shows that some of these changes have happened because of what we have done. And of course, this talks about learning, that you need to learn as an organization and query your data. So for example, if you say that 65% of the children that you supported have improved, very good data, but ask yourself, the 35% that have not improved, why didn't they improve? What are the factors that made them not improve? And that will help you to see how you need to realign or change anything in your programming. And this is the last slide, just a case study of 1 Acre Foundation on how they are putting out their own data. You know, they've talked about 4.8 million farmers served. While 4.8 million farmers served can look like an output level result, but that number is large enough to be able to put out. So it's fine. But see where they then talk about impact, that for $421 million in profit and assets, that is significant. So they are saying that with the people that they have supported, 421 million profit has been able to make across that. That's significant. And data is the only thing, M&E is the only thing that allows you to be able to come out boldly to be able to say this. And of course, they've also been able to measure their efficiency, looking at the social return on investment. So I will stop here, but yeah, I mean, I hope there are a lot more that to talk about, but I hope that with what Bridget and I have said, that we're beginning to see how it's important to do M&E, but also those quick wins that we can set up just to get things going. Thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Mr. Yebisi at this point. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for that 60 minutes of very deep dive learning on monitoring and evaluation. Again, thanks to Bridget and thanks to Akinwumi for taking us on that journey. And I like that question. And so what? How do we answer that question of, yeah, I've done this, I've done X, Y, Z, and so what? Thanks for taking us through conversations around theory of change, indicator selection, and how we need to align that with either donor preferences or also what our friends and families who are donating to us, what they would like to see in terms of results. Evidence gathering, that's also part of what you mentioned, including attribution, ensuring that we are able to attribute fairly. And for all of this, if we really want legitimacy, then how we are able to provide evidence for the work that we do becomes very much important. I do know that not all of us get funding from multilaterals. Some of us are just from friends and families. But again, the impact of that support given to us by friends and family is also important when we do M&E. To say, yeah, we've supported 60 children. Out of the 60 children, 30 passed WAEC at A grade straight. The other 30%, they have these difficulties, and we'll be helping them to do ABC. So thanks again to our very distinguished panelists for this. It's now time for question and answer. Don't forget that you can type your questions in the Q&A box, and I'll be working with colleagues at Sterling One Foundation to be able to collate all of the questions and relay them to the panelists for them to respond. Again, as we've said earlier, the presentations will be shared with the 244 participants that I am seeing on this call at this time. So be rest assured that the recordings and also the presentations will be shared with you. So please keep your questions coming. My two panelists are ready to answer. And like Akiwumi said, there's a lot from that well. So let the questions dig them out. I see one question here from Olubumi. Please allow me to use first names for the purposes of justice moderation. What solution did the engineers Without Borders come up with to support women within that community? Is there a research paper perhaps that one may read about the situation? I think, she's trying to allude to that example you gave about that organization and that community. Do you want to quickly respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll check if there's a research to that. But what they did was to build a social community. So yes, they rebuilt the well, but they then invested in building social spaces for the women to be able to interact together, because that is really the foundation of the problem that those women had, in addition to the water issue. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Blossom is saying, how do we differentiate evaluation from monitoring?
Bridget?
Okay, I think at the beginning of the session, I did differentiate between both of them. That monitoring is more ongoing. So you are keeping your hands on the program to constantly collect data and track your activities. But for evaluation, you are then taking a periodic assessment. You got all that data. You want to see between the baseline and the midline, what improvements have been made. So between, maybe you are looking at 6 months period, from month 0 to month 6, what improvement have we seen in the impact or in the lives of the beneficiaries? So monitoring, you're constantly collecting that information, while evaluation takes a periodic assessment and analysis of that data to then say this is where the improvement over a year, over 6 months, over 12 months, whatever the framework you want to use to measure that timeline, you do that during your evaluation process.
Oh, excellent. So monitoring is like putting the torchlight on, and at a point in time, you come back and say, this is what I've seen over a period of time that I've put the torchlight on, and this is a lesson that I've learned. Maybe just a simple analogy like that. Thanks a lot, Bridget, as well for that. Samuel is asking, how do you do the calculation and interpretation? I think that speaks to when you're talking about SPSS, the data and interpretation of that. Who wants to shoot on this?
I can touch on a bit. So in terms of, it depends on the type of data you collect. So let's assume you're collecting quantitative data, right? If you've taken your survey, for example, and in the survey you are asking, since we started giving your child food, how many times have they gone to school in the last 6 months? You now say, once, twice, you put those indicators that you want to track. And then when you get all of that information, you are looking at quantitative numbers. Like, for example, you can say 60% of all the children that we gave school lunches to have gone to school 3 times in the last 2 weeks. So it depends on the tool. So we talked about the different tools. When you have your different tools, the indicators you want to collect will determine the tools. The tools you use will determine the analysis. The analysis will determine your reporting. So you always start from, what do I want to learn? How will I collect the information? Analysis of that information, and then the reporting of that information. So it varies depending on your needs and your programs as well.
Yeah, if I can add to that, there is also the part of, as you do it, you get better at it, particularly when you have to do things around qualitative data where you have to make a judgment. So it is you looking at, so for example, currently I'm carrying out a longitudinal study looking at entrepreneurs, 30 entrepreneurs across 4 countries, and seeing what is changing. One of the things I find useful is that I also have an understanding of the program. And I think that that's one of the things that get missing, that sometimes the M&E person also needs to be able to understand the program and what the program is trying to achieve. So based on that, because I have an understanding of the program, is helping me to see the things that they got in the program, and then I'm trying, as I'm reading through their responses, I'm already getting insights in terms of connecting some of the things that they said to some of the things that the program did deliver, and being able to identify major teams. So there's also the part that as you then also go on with it, you also get better at it, but also understanding the program and what the program is supposed to deliver in the first place.
Excellent. Irene Okon would like to know, to have an effective M&E system and process, what's the starting point for an organization that is still trying to build a track record? And there's a follow-up to that. Also, what are the tools available for organizations serving a demographic that can't use technology? Who wants to shoot?
Yeah. Okay. So where do you start from? I think where to start from is ask yourself, why do you need to collect the data? What do you want to use the data to do? Once you then answer that question, it helps you to know what kind of data you should, start to collect. But there is also, if you go to tools for dev, when I share the slides, I would share some of the links that I have to free websites where you can download templates and tools for M&E. There are some free websites for to be able to look at indicators. So keep it as simple as possible. If you are giving children school food, why are you giving them school food? And you are making it as simple as, okay, let's even confirm how many of them are we giving the food to? And then 3 months later, we are asking ourselves, since we started giving food to them, did they get healthier? Were they coming to school more than they were coming before? Just start from that very basic thing, and of course collect things like baseline data. So like I said, just be very clear on why you want to collect the data and start as simple as possible. The second question, now I have forgotten. Sorry, sir.
Available tools for organizations serving demography that can't use technology.
Yeah, in fact, I feel that they are easier than than those that can use technology. Just go the route of focus group discussions, interviews. Just go and talk to them, because you'll be able to harvest what do you call it? You'll be able to harvest very beautiful stories from them. With those kind of people, if there's any need to collect numerical data, you might need to do that data, that collecting of numbers. But for those kind of people, what will come out more is really from their stories, their experience. You're able to collect that and interpret that well. I hope that helps.
Excellent. And Toyin Babalola is asking, are there standard templates for M&E that one can adopt and modify?
Yes, there are tools. So I would share that with the slides. There are links to tools. Yeah.
Excellent.
That we can
Marvel,
share.
brilliant. Thanks so much for that. Marvel is also asking, how fast can a program officer prepare an M&E framework for a simple project?
Same thing. Use tools. Use existing tools, but and adapt these tools to your own program. Adapt the tools to your own program. If this were a more extended training, we'll take you through, looking at what the tool should look like at the very least and how to put those tools. So look for free tools and adapt it and make it as simple as possible when you are starting out. Leave the complex ones for the future.
Excellent. And Emmanuel Mogaji, what happens if your beneficiaries are not acknowledging your impact?
Bridget.
That's an interesting question. What happens if they are not acknowledging your impact? Right. I think you can tease that out, even if they are not directly acknowledging your impact, but you ask them questions about what you've done for them, right? Even without saying that they need to praise you or they need to, by just collecting data without even linking it to what you've done, that data itself can reveal that there are changes that have happened, especially if you've done it well enough to make sure you are extracting the impact of your program. So you can't force people to acknowledge it, right? But by asking questions, unless they completely decide not to talk to you, then that means you should not be interacting with them anyways, because you can't also force your program on them. So I think just when you go out to collect data, even when you are collecting data from people that have no interaction with you, you can get a lot of insight from what is going on in their lives, right? So I feel like if you set up your data collection very well, irrespective of whether they don't want to acknowledge it, it will tease out some of the things that have changed over time. That's how I see it.
If I can add to that, I mean, part of the things that Bridget said in sources of data is also observation. If the people that you have supported and empowered, if they are not, if they are hard to you, maybe that is even enough data to say that there's maybe something was probably wrong in your program delivery. Maybe something went wrong somewhere in that program delivery, and that in itself is data. So if the people that you supported, if they are not acknowledging your impact, you definitely need to ask yourself that what impact are you reporting? So you might say that, yes, you've supported 50 people, but if those 50 people, and if the biggest number in those 50 people are not saying that they actually had change, yes, you probably have had an activity level result. You impacted 50 people, but the real change, it is those 50 people that needs to tell you that change has happened. So if they are not giving you that, maybe it is then that's data in itself that you need to go back and ask yourself the question, why do we have this resistance? Is there something in the program delivery itself that went wrong that we could have corrected?
Excellent. And again, while understanding that, whatever data you present can be political and technical, so how you communicate is also very much important.
Absolutely. And I mean, without taking us too far, there is even the part that, I mean, a conversation that I'm having with some of my colleagues around how incentivizing also, how does it affect the quality of the data that you collect? If I come to collect data from you and then I have to give you something so that you can give me data, does it influence you to be saying the good things even though that's not what it is? But if I say I'm not giving you anything, does it then make you hard that you're not giving me data that I want? So how does the role of incentivizing also affect in data quality? So that's also an ongoing conversation,
including resentment for your organization as well. So again,
exactly,
a lot of things that comes to play here. But God help you, Mr. Emmanuel Mogaji. I hope you find a way around that. But I'm sure you've learned one or two of the things. There's HOH Palm who is saying, what is the recommended measure of M&E personnel cost on a general term without specifics of different organizations' capacity? M&E officers are overworked and underpaid. I think this is talking about remuneration. So I leave you to it.
Welcome to our world. I mean, I can't. It's hard to put something to it. And okay, for example, I mean, I live in the UK and I'm the male lead for an organization, but I know very well that I mean, whatever I'm paid is also based on what the organization can afford. If I compare that to when I used to work at Faith Foundation, where I was the head of a team and there was a large team, it's different. So it's in terms of the budget for M&A itself, we would always advise that between 5 to 10% of the project budget to go to M&A. But in terms of what the cost should be for the person who is doing it itself, it depends a lot on the level of the person. It depends on the level of experience. It depends on the kind of organization. And that's one of the things I've come to really realize. If you might be working with an organization, but if they cannot afford to pay that grades, I mean, it is. So there's the income of the organization that also defines that. So I don't know, it's hard to be able to just say that this is it. Just negotiate well. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, because in the non-profit sector, we earn discounted or low salaries. So sometimes but I hear you so well. Whoever asks this question, I hear you so well. We are all underpaid.
Everybody's
But
underpaid.
maybe we now need, I know, right? Maybe we now need a movement around attracting the right set of talents and ensuring that we can pay decently and fairly in the non-profit sector. But again, public trust, you know, your non-profit nature. There are a lot of conversations there. Innocent Effiong would like to know, in the process of data mining before, during, and after project, what approach can be used in ensuring transparency and accountability as to providing a value-based data? Bridget?
Can you come again? I think, yeah.
So Innocent Effiong would like to know, in the process of data mining before, during, and after project, what approach can be used in ensuring transparency and accountability as to providing a value-based data? I think what they're asking there is they just wanted to be sure the quality of data, the transparency and accountability that goes into that data collection and maybe reporting. That's how we make sense of that.
Okay, so I think I am starting always from what do you need the data for? You don't just go out collecting data for the sake of it. You need to know why you are collecting that data. What do you want to measure? And then there are also biases that can come into play when you are collecting data. So it's good to have people, it's not just one person, maybe a team of people can sit down and discuss what do we want to know, how are we asking the questions, such that you are not maybe giving the participants or beneficiaries leading questions just because you want to get them to say something. So you need that accountability with other people to be able to make sure that that bias is not there. And then having that system in place to make sure that this data that we are collecting is really is fair, is reliable, is credible. I think is very important. Not one person just coming up with something and taking out to the field. We should have people who can look at that and say, this makes sense, this is not biased, and this is useful. Because at the end of the day, people collect a lot of data, but they don't even collect the right indicators that when you come back to analyze the data, it makes sense for what you want to use it for. So you always have to start from that premise of what do we want to measure? We want to know how much students have learned in the past 12 months. So you must maybe come up with an assessment that will also measure their learning. You must also, you have to look at different factors around ensuring that that data is credible, is reliable, and it's not biased as well. Yeah.
If I can add to that, what you can also do is have standardized data collection tools that has gone through processing, it has gone through validation, and it's very clear on the kind of outcomes that kind of results that you want to be able to get out of that. Because sometimes in administering some of these data tools, it is not the professional that is administering it. Sometimes it's just an educated person, but not a professional. But when you have those tools that are standardized, it definitely helps. And then when the data does come in, I think that the M&E professional needs to be able to sit down on the data and take a very good look at the data. And sometimes you will need to do some data cleaning. But in all of the data cleaning that you're doing, you are ensuring there is that personal integrity for the person who is managing the data, to also ensure that you're not trying to scale the narrative to fit into the kind of things that you're saying. Sometimes you have to be able to eat the humble pie when the data is showing that, you're not getting as much result as you can. But there's that personal integrity for the person who is in charge of the data and all of the person that the person reports to. Yeah.
And at this time, I would now have to abuse my moderator privileges. On the agenda, I am meant to have concluded the Q&A by 12:40 on the dot, but I still have 3 more questions or 4 more. So I would abuse that privilege and quickly take the 4, but crave the indulgence of my panelists to please just respond to them short and sharp as well. David is asking, would you recommend that everyone does M&E or get a specialist? Yes or no?
I think
Get a specialist.
I mean, you
Short and
would always
sharp.
favor getting a specialist, I know.
I mean, how does people like me want to get jobs?
I know, right? I know, right? Augustine Michael Bassi is asking, and is it good branding? Is it good branding for organizations to put out a report of their failed projects, why it didn't work, and what they learned? Kind of like that question, though.
Wow, very good question. I think I've seen something like that before. I mean, why you not put it out and announce it? But yeah, it can. The way you present it as a learning. Do you understand? Present it as a learning and what your organization have learned from that, and also things that you are doing as a result of that in changing things. So yeah, it's not in fact, it shows the credibility of your organization. You're not going to flaunt it out there though, but yeah, it can be on your website, to be honest.
Yeah, some of us, we call it failing forward. And
Yes.
I've had a situation where some of us in the sector, we've been having a failure conference. I mean, we had one just this May as well, where we sit down as leaders and just discuss our failures. So
Wow.
I do think, and I really want to be bold about it, maybe next year, just print our failure report. What I've done at the Nigeria Network of NGOs is when I'm reporting to the board, I also report our failure as well. It has been internal majorly, but maybe the failures report should be printed. I'll do that next year and see whether some people can join me. Thanks a lot, Austin Michael Bassi, for that. I like that question. Evan Simon is asking, what do you have to say about delegation of duties, most especially in the rural area when we talk about monitoring and evaluation, even when we have our online data in place?
Bridget, do you want to go?
I think it's irrespective of the location. If you're on ground with the beneficiaries impacting or doing any program, it should feed directly into monitoring and evaluation should be part of that process. So if you are going to hand out something to them, you should also be linking your M&E processes while you are there. It's not about doing the intervention and then going back to your urban area and saying, oh, how do we then monitor and evaluate it? Anytime you are actually in the process of implementing that program, monitoring and evaluation should always be part of it, and you should have a budget to do it. It should be as important as that program you are implementing as well. So I think we should not try to separate M&E from the intervention. It should always be part of the intervention for you to have the best result possible to measure impact.
Ejiro Lucky is asking, and this is the final question before we then go to the survey session. And I hope the comms colleagues at the comms end are ready to deploy the survey. Ejiro Lucky is asking, what if during monitoring, you discover that a lot of beneficiaries are not cooperating and being short of resources? You have to cut down on the numbers. What's the best way to go?
That is a very good way of how monitoring and evaluation fits into program design. What you need to do is then go back to the drawing table. Every single person who is a stakeholder in that program, you then have a conversation around, this is what we have found out from the field. They are not cooperating. We need to reduce resources, and you make that decision there. That's what we call cross-correcting in program design. So it validates the reason why you need to do M&E. So just go back, call every stakeholder, have that conversation, and then go back to the field to implement the change and then collect data from there as well. I hope that answers it.
Yes, thank you so much. And can I have the 229 participants to please use their emoticons to express how they feel at this time, and to thank both Bridget and Akinwumi for doing such an excellent job in the last 70 to 80 or 90 minutes. Yes, the emoticons are coming in. Love emoji, claps. Yeah. Okay. Now we would also like to please keep the emoticons coming in. While at that, I would then ask the comms team to please deploy the survey so that again we can collect data for us to measure how we may have done today at the activity level. And maybe at some point come back to you to check the impact of this, how this is changing your M&E systems, and whether you are recruiting a specialist or you are turning one of your staff into an M&E expert, whether you are overworking or underpaying your M&E experts as you have them. Comms, please deploy the survey so that we can take that on. It's been an interesting 90 minutes or thereabout, discussing monitoring and evaluation. Again, monitoring the Q&A side of things. A couple of people are telling us, thanks so much for organizing this. Yes, Gideon's just shared the evaluation link in the chat box. Please pick it up there. We need you to please tell us what we have done well and what we may not have done well, and so that we can monitor this, but also at some point evaluate our impact. Someone saying this is definitely one of the best sessions I've had so far. Yes, I agree with you. Thumbs up to that. Yeah, though I came in late due to connection challenges, but the few minutes really has great subject value for me. Thanks to all our panelists and organizers for this morning. Yes, this has been very insightful. And I think we can, again, take this as data for monitoring how well we've done today. So thanks again to Dr. Bridget and also to Akiwumi for that excellent delivery. Again, please don't forget that we have deployed the session survey. Please complete it, as we use that as well to monitor how we are doing, what needs to change, and how we're also improving. On that note, let me thank Stellan One Foundation and Giving.ng for doing this with us. Let me thank colleagues at both organizations for the support, and also my colleagues at the Nigeria Network of NGOs as well, for all of you working behind the scenes to ensure that today, at some point, we had 248 participants. That shows how interesting this theme or topic is to our sector. This is an impressive presentation. Thanks for sharing this eye-opening. Yeah, that's from Wesley. And I totally agree with you as well. Let me wish you the best for the rest of the day. And please don't forget to pick the survey. Please pick up the survey. Tell us what has worked well, what hasn't worked well, so that for the next NGO Development Series, which would happen the third quarter, we can use this to retool and also improve. Again, the survey link is in your chat box. Please don't forget to pick it up and give us your comments. Ensure that we can learn more from this. On that note, let me wish you the best, and please enjoy the rest of the day. And the session is now closed officially. Bye-bye, and see you again in the next couple of weeks and months. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.